You're listening to the Doctor Is In podcast, brought to you by MartinClinic.com. During the episode, the doctors share a lot of information. As awesome as the info may be, it is not intended to diagnose, cure, treat, or prevent any disease. It's strictly for informational purposes.
Well, good morning, everyone. I want to talk to you about the benefits of cheese. I want to tell you why you should eat cheese. And you should have it every day. Cheese has gotten a bad rap because when people think of cheese, they think of cholesterol, they think that it's not healthy, it's not good for you, it makes you fat. That is not true at all. So let's talk about cheese, why it is so good for you. Okay, I want to give you several reasons, but let's start off with the number one reason that cheese is good for you, okay? So look, if you can't eat cheese because it bothers you, okay, this isn't for you. But for the people that like cheese and sometimes avoid it because they think of fat, they think it's not good for you. Okay, so several reasons why you should eat cheese. And the number one reason, you guys, this is going to blow you away. The number one reason you should eat cheese is for vitamin K2. Why is vitamin K2 so important? Okay? Because vitamin K2, okay, there's K1 and there's K2. K1 is found primarily in the plant kingdom. Your green leafy vegetables, they're good for you. Vitamin K1 is very good for you. It thins your blood out a little bit. But what vitamin K2 does is vitamin K2 takes calcium out of your blood vessels. What hardens your blood vessels? How do you get atherosclerosis, hardening of your blood vessels? Calcium, this is why I never recommend to patients to take a calcium supplement. Why do you need to take a calcium supplement? A calcium supplement will never get to your bones without vitamin K2. This is why we put K2 in our vitamin D. But K2 literally prevents you from having a heart attack. K2 prevents you from having a stroke. K2 will lower your blood pressure. Why is that? Because it takes the calcium that you eat and puts it into your bones and your teeth where it belongs. It doesn't stay in the blood vessels. Vitamin K2. So imagine cheese that got such a bad rap over the years. We were told, don't eat cheese. It'll give you cholesterol. Yeah, it'll give you cholesterol. Give you good cholesterol. You need cholesterol. You know how many times I talk about eating good cholesterol. You need cholesterol. Cholesterol. You need it. Your brain needs it. Your skin needs it. Your cells need it. And God don't trust you enough that 85% of your cholesterol comes out of your liver and only 15% comes from food. But you better eat it in foods like cheese. Cheese has good cholesterol. Yeah, you need good cholesterol. Okay? What vitamin K2 does, which is so significant. Think of cheese as almost a perfect food because it gives you calcium. It's the highest source of calcium in the world. It's higher than even milk. Okay, milk is a source of calcium. I don't want to go into milk. I will a little bit in a few minutes, okay? But cheese has vitamin K2, takes calcium out of your blood vessels, and it has a high source of calcium. And it's not like you don't need calcium. Of course you need calcium. The problem is if you take a calcium supplement, it never gets to its intended destination. That's why cheese is such a perfect food, because cheese allows the calcium that you're eating from the cheese, and the K2 inside the cheese will literally take that calcium and put it where it belongs. It's, calcium is a lot like sugar. Sugar cannot stay in your bloodstream. You guys know that. That's why I always talk about insulin all the time. Insulin's job is to take sugar and get it out of the bloodstream because sugar is so toxic. But calcium is toxic if it's left in your bloodstream because calcium doesn't belong in your bloodstream. It belongs in your bones. And this is why osteoporosis, this is why such a big problem, because, people today have bought the lie that, or they shouldn't be eating cheese because cheese is no good for them. It's too fat, okay? So, number one, K2. Number two, high in calcium. We already talked about that. It's very high in calcium, and the very cheese that you're eating will deliver the calcium where it belongs. You need calcium. But like I said, I'm not big on calcium supplements. Here's a third thing that why cheese is so good for you. Cheese is good for you because it does not contain lactose. Now, what are they saying? 70% of the population or so has problem with lactose, the milk sugar. But there's no milk sugar, lactose, in cheese. That's why I tell patients, Doc, I can't have dairy. I said, are you saying that you can't have any dairy, or are you saying, as far as you know, you're lactose intolerant? And they say, I'm lactose intolerant. I said, well, then you should be able to eat cheese. And you know what? Be your own doctor. Like, if you feel good eating cheese, then eat it. It's so good for you. It's one of nature's perfect foods. So calcium, don't worry about it because it'll take it out and put it where it belongs. Vitamin K2 does that. It will prevent osteoporosis. One of the best foods you can eat for osteoporosis is cheese. Thirdly, it contains no lactose. It doesn't have any sugar in it. Low carb food. And remember, what makes your insulin go crazy is carbs. It's sugars. That's what makes your insulin go crazy. And we live in a different world. And this is why at the Martin Clinic, I'm always constantly telling my patients, it's the carbs. That's what gives you insulin resistance. So if you eat a low carb diet, which cheese should be part of it. You know me, I'm always talking about eggs, meat, and cheese. Doc, they say to me, Doc, why don't you change your tune? Why? It works. Okay, so another reason, it doesn't have lactose. It's got vitamin K2. It's the highest source of K2. So is butter, by the way. Butter is very good for you because of vitamin K2 and the healthy fat that's found in butter. Did you know that cheese is a good source of B12? Now, it's not as good as red meat, but it's still a good source of B12. And for people that don't eat a lot of cheese, the cheese is going to make me fat. No, it's a good source of B12. Now, again, B12, for a lot of people, they have to take a supplement anyways because they just don't break down B12. B12 is a very finicky vitamin at the best of times, because it's so large, it has such a large structure, okay? And B12 but it's in cheese, okay? And then it is very high in a fat called CLA, okay? CLA is a real, I've seen study after study after study that actually shows you that CLA is very good for weight loss. And cheese has one of the highest sources, dairy does, but cheese specifically has a very high source of CLA, which is a conjugated fatty acid that is very good for weight loss. So imagine using cheese as a weight loss product, okay? So, guys, this is why you should be eating cheese. Now look, at some people, they do all right with goat cheese, better than cow cheese. Well, that's all right. Whatever your fancy is, and whatever, like sometimes people find, I can't really have cheese, but I can have goat cheese. Well, that's fine. It's beautiful. It's so good for you, okay? It's all good. So enjoy, guys, okay? So there's several reasons for it. And remember, milk, unless you can get a real whole milk and you got a cow in the backyard, or you got a farmer that's giving you the milk, I'd stay away from dairy, like the milk in the grocery store. I just don't like that stuff. It's denatured. It's pasteurized at 1200 degrees. Plus, it doesn't have any more probiotics in it. It is full of sugar. I call milk white Pepsi. Okay, might as well have a Pepsi if you're gonna have a glass of milk. But if you can get whole milk and full of fat, that's why I love cream so much. Okay, but if you're lactose, there's some lactose in cream still, but not in cheese. Okay, so those are the reasons, guys. I'm going to keep preaching it and preaching it and preaching it because this is why you guys know more than your family doctors on nutrition. You do, because we're educating you and you're listening. Okay, so thank you so much for watching. Share this with your friends. Love you guys.
You've reached the end of another Doctor is In podcast with your hosts, Dr. Martin Jr. and Sr. Be sure to catch our next episode, and thanks for listening.